I didn't take this ride to get anywhere. I took it because I couldn't sleep. Maybe you're the same. And when the thoughts get too soft to follow, let yourself drift. This train will carry you, even if your eyes close before the story ends. The carriage lights are dim tonight, their glow a warm ember against the silver dark. Rain threads down the glass in patient lines, gathering at the sill before letting go. I sit by the window, knees drawn up a little, feeling the steady hush of the wheels. It is late, long past the bustle of commuter hours, and the train has slipped into its quieter self, a slow creature gliding through moon-soft fields. Outside, mist hovers above furrowed soil, the kind of pale veil that makes every tree seem half-remembered. I watch one distant barn lamp flicker, as though it too were nodding toward sleep. The hum of the engine is low and even. It reminds me of breathing beside someone you trust completely, how their chest rises, falls, and lulls you without words. There is a man across the aisle, coat folded over his lap like a small animal. He isn't awake, yet every so often he smiles, just barely, as if hearing music no one else can catch. I imagine he's dreaming of someone waiting at the next station, someone holding a paper cup of coffee, rehearsing a greeting. I give the scene to the rain, let it wash through the moment, then drift away. The conductor walks past, gentle and unhurried, as though respecting the hush we've all agreed upon. His footsteps are soft, but the ticket punch clicks, a tiny starburst of sound. I think of clocks that used to sit on mantelpieces, ticking toward past midnights while children slept upstairs. Time keeps moving, it just grows softer in its insistence when night deepens. We pass an empty platform. The overhead lamps cast short halos, puddles shining like small mirrors. No one stands there, and yet I sense the ghost of waiting. Someone who might have been late or early or not arrived at all, their story caught between trains. I press a palm to the window. Cool glass answers back, anchoring me in this particular second. Lately I have been measuring life in departures rather than arrivals. The way a door frame holds the shape of a farewell, the way footsteps echo down a corridor after voices have quieted. Tonight, though, the rhythm of the rails reminds me that movement is also promise. Every mile gone is a mile closer to somewhere new, even if that somewhere is only the soft bed waiting at journey's end. The rain swells, then thins in gentle cycles like someone adjusting a blanket around us all. I remember being a child in the back seat of a car, highway lights sliding over the ceiling, my mother humming to herself. Half awakened, I would catch fragments of conversation, the kind adults save for when they think you are asleep, little truths floating in the dark. A young woman sits 3 rows ahead, jotting notes in a small blue notebook. Her pen pauses, taps, moves again. I picture her writing letters she will never send, letting the train carry them away. Perhaps she is practicing goodbye or rehearsing courage. Perhaps she is simply cataloging the sound of rain for future comfort. Whatever her words, they join the quiet chorus here, and none of us needs to read them to feel their weight. We slow for a bend, and the countryside reveals another layer of night. Hedgerows traced in silver, ponds reflecting fractured constellations. Somewhere a fox pauses, ears twitching at our passage, then returns to its own hidden path. I envy its certainty, its simple need for shelter and a full belly. Yet I also cherish this human longing that threads through me, a wish to understand, to remember, to keep moving even when unsure. Regret visits, but only as a courteous guest. It sits beside me, hands folded, speaking in a whisper. I listen, nod, and let it go. Outside, the rain has softened to a mist so fine it seems to hang suspended, neither falling nor rising. In that delicate balance, I sense forgiveness, the possibility of laying burdens down without ceremony. The man across the aisle stirs, opens his eyes, and for a moment our gazes meet. We share a small, drowsy acknowledgement of each other's presence, then return to our separate silences. It feels like lighting a candle in a distant window, brief, gentle reassurance that we are not alone on this night arc of steel. Another station drifts by. A single bench, rain slick, waits beneath an iron awning. The sign reads a name I've never seen before, soft consonants that feel like a lullaby. I promise myself I will look it up tomorrow, though I know I probably won't. Some curiosities are best left to glow quietly in the mind, undisturbed. The sway of the carriage grows slower, deeper, as though the rails themselves are breathing out. My eyelids mimic the rhythm, growing heavier with each measured clack. Somewhere behind me a phone screen dims, shutting its small gate against the waking world. Ahead the notebook closes. The story pauses. Sleep begins to write its own chapter. I settle further into the seat, pull my coat around my shoulders, and let the window become a moving watercolor. Fields, lights, reflections merge into gentle abstraction. Thought decelerates. The train, the rain, the heart, all pulse together, slower, softer, nearly still. Soon the next stop will arrive, and after that another, but for now we are simply between places, held in a drifting cradle of sound and shadow. I give myself to the motion, to the hush, to the cool breath of night pressing lightly against the glass. And somewhere, just beyond awareness, dawn is already boarding, ticket in hand, waiting its turn to sit beside me. The rain begins as a hush, almost shy, then builds a quiet rhythm on the window. Each droplet sketches a brief path before dissolving, as though afraid to linger too long. Outside, darkness drapes the countryside, broken only by the sleepy glow of distant farm lights. The train sighs through it all, a steady pulse, patient and unhurried. I lean back, letting the hum settle into my chest like a second heartbeat. My reflection floats on the glass, half merged with the night fields sliding past. I look older there, softer around the edges, as if time has blurred my outline. Perhaps reflections are honest in ways mirrors never can be, showing the transient parts of us. A station appears, silent and small, its platform slick with rain and empty of waiting feet. The sign is a name I've only read in timetables, never spoken aloud. I imagine the stories nested in that name. Children running late for school, lovers missing trains, letters never collected. The lamps cast long, lonely halos, and for a breath the world seems to hold itself still. Then we glide onward as if nothing had happened at all. Across the aisle, an elderly woman dozes, scarf gathered like petals around her chin. Her hand rests on a cardboard box tied with fading string. The knot looks practiced, deliberate. I imagine it holds something fragile, perhaps pressed flowers from a garden she once tended with someone gone. Maybe tonight she'll place them on a new windowsill, honoring both memory and change. The box rocks gently with each curve, like a cradle soothed by calm waters. Near the carriage door, a teenager scrolls through photos, the screen's cool glow painting his face blue. He lingers on one picture, a dog in mid-leap, tongue out, sky wide, then pockets the phone. A soft smile stays behind, small and trembling, like a candle left in a breeze. I remember a dog from my own childhood, first smelling of wet grass, eyes always asking to play. His name slips my mind just now, yet the warmth is immediate, faithful as ever. Memories can outlive their names, traveling light, needing nothing but the feelings they stir. The rain thickens, drumming more insistently, yet never harsh, just present, companionable. It blends with the track's low rumble until the two sounds weave a single lullaby. This mingling reminds me that separations in life are rarely clean. Threads cross, colors bleed. We label moments beginnings or endings, yet the world prefers gentle gradients over sharp edges. A conductor passes, checking tickets with a nod rather than words, respecting the drowsy peace. His brass buttons catch a faint glimmer from overhead lights, tiny stars in muted constellations. He pauses by the elderly woman, softens his gaze at the box, then moves on. Kindness, I think, is often quiet, just an extra second of attention, a softened footfall. Outside, fields stretch under mist, hedgerows barely silhouettes, cows mere thoughts of cows. Far off, a church tower peeks through the fog, its bell silent at this late hour. I picture its clock hands turning regardless, guardians of passing minutes few will witness. Time, indifferent yet patient, keeps offering itself to us. We accept, squander, or forget. Years ago, I sat on another night train, clutching a letter I never sent. The words inside were raw, hopeful, afraid, an apology for leaving without explaining why. I folded that letter so many times the creases felt like bones. At dawn, I stepped onto a platform, walked to a river, and let the paper drift away. I thought release would be immediate. Instead, forgiveness came slowly, like this train climbing a gentle grade. Now, whenever wheels echo on rain-slick rails, I feel those creases ease just a little more. We slow again, rounding a bend where trees arch overhead, forming a leafy tunnel. Their branches catch droplets that glisten like scattered coins in moonlight. Somewhere among them an owl calls once, then folds back into stillness. Its voice lingers, a single brushstroke on a dark canvas, fading but not forgotten. Sleep settles over the carriage in waves. A cough softens, a page turns slower, shoulders sink. Even my own thoughts stretch out, words lengthening, spaces widening, inviting hush between them. In that hush I sense possibilities the waking mind rushes past. Small reconciliations, gentle resolves. I promise myself nothing grand, only this, to greet tomorrow with less hurry. Another platform approaches, lit by rows of tulips planted in tired wooden boxes. Rain beads on their petals, small jewels no one sees at this hour except the flowers themselves. No passengers board, the doors never open, yet the train pauses respectfully, honoring the schedule. Commitment, I realize, can be quiet too, showing up even when no one is watching. We move again, tugging the night along like a blanket pulled over sleepy shoulders. The teenager rests his head against the window, earphones in, lips parted in surrender to dreams. The elderly woman shifts, and the box whispers against her coat, settling. I close my eyes for a moment, letting darkness inside match the darkness outside. The engine's thrum becomes a tide. Each breath rolls in, then glides away slower than before. With eyelids lowered, I picture distant waves scrubbing a moonlit shore, smoothing footprints left by evening walkers. Regret and hope both fade there, equal grains of sand returning to the water's patient care. A soft chime signals the next stop in 10 minutes, but minutes feel elastic now, unhurried. I open my eyes just enough to see raindrops racing downward in loose, lazy lines. Their paths cross, merge, separate, tiny travelers on their own nocturnal tracks. We have that in common, the rain and I, movement for its own quiet sake. Somewhere beyond these fields, morning is polishing its light, testing colors against the horizon. Yet night still holds sway here, and we remain its calm passengers a little longer. I let my shoulders sink farther, breath floating light, thoughts drifting like seeds on still air. The train's sway narrows, slows. The story of this ride whispers toward its final commas. Around me, silhouettes soften into shapes of trust, safe in the cradle of motion and sound. I release one long breath, feel it slide away, carrying the last sharp edges of wakefulness. Outside, rain meets earth in steady cadence. Inside, hearts tune themselves to softer measures. For now, this is enough. Rails beneath, roof above, and a shared quiet stitched by rain. In that measured hush, I fade towards sleep, following the gentle promise of forward movement, unbroken and kind. The rain returns in fine silver threads, almost weightless, brushing the glass like quiet fingers. Distant hedgerows drift by, softened by the mist until they resemble charcoal smudges on dark paper. Inside the carriage, lamps glow amber, leaving gentle halos above each seat, as if blessing our rest. I sit alone on a wide bench, coat draped beside me, its empty sleeve a silent companion. The hum beneath my feet is steady, a deep velvet note that never wavers or complains. Every few breaths, the wheels click over a joint in the rail, a soft punctuation mark. Between those clicks, thought stretches out, unhurried, like a cat finding the warmest part of a rug. A young couple occupies the far corner, heads leaning together, foreheads almost touching in shared dream. Their hands rest palm to palm, not holding, simply touching, as though contact itself is enough story. I imagine they argued earlier, voices low, then found this quiet and decided agreement could wait. Now peace folds around them, thin as rice paper, yet strong enough to last until morning. Outside, a river unwinds alongside the track, gathering moonlight in trembling ribbons. I try to glimpse its current, but darkness keeps secrets, offering only hints of movement. Something in that hidden flow reminds me of promises I once made to keep writing letters. I wrote 3 in spring, 2 in summer, none in autumn, and by winter words felt frozen. Yet memory holds the shape of those letters, even the weight of the stamps I never licked. Maybe tomorrow I will begin again, or maybe the intention alone is what truly matters. Rain taps twice, then pauses, then taps once more, a pattern almost musical in its restraint. Near the door, a middle-aged man polishes his glasses, breath fogging each lens before careful wiping. His briefcase sits open, papers neatly stacked. He chooses not to read them tonight. I invent a story for him. A conference finished, a speech delivered, applause still echoing inside. Now, on this train, he lets applause fade, making room for quieter thoughts long postponed. A station appears, lit by a single vending machine glowing blue like an underwater cave. No one boards, no one leaves. The doors sigh open merely to taste the cool night air. The pause feels ceremonial, an acknowledgement that even empty platforms deserve their moment of attention. We move again, slower than before, as if rails have grown soft beneath the steady rain. I glance at my reflection, eyelids half lowered, shoulders loose, a face learning to release tension. Years ago, insomnia clung to me like static. Nights were bright rooms of restless furniture. Then I discovered trains after midnight, their motion lending my thoughts a lullaby cadence. Now, whenever sleep feels distant, I buy a ticket to anywhere and let the rails decide. The countryside beyond the window turns into rolling fields, edges feathered by low cloud. Wind turbines stand still, white giants resting their tired arms until daylight summons them to circle. I breathe in, slow, then slower, matching the turbine's imagined rhythm, a silent arc through dark sky. A toddler's laugh breaks the hush, brief, bubbling, then subsiding into a mother's whispered show. They sit 2 rows back. I see only the outline of a stuffed rabbit dangling by one ear. The laugh lingers like citrus on the tongue, bright yet delicate, gone before it lingers too long. I picture the child's dream, perhaps riding this same train, only faster, chasing stars through tunnels of blue. Dreams of children, I believe, travel ahead of us, scouts clearing paths we later recognize. The rain slackens, droplets now few and deliberate, each one choosing its own slow descent. Glass cools beneath my fingertips. Condensation gathers, then retreats as warm air circulates. I trace an absent circle on the pane, watching it vanish almost before it forms. Impermanence used to frighten me, now it feels like mercy releasing what no longer serves. We crest a slight incline, engine notes deepen, a comforting baritone resonating through metal and bone. A farmyard lamp flashes by, revealing a lone horse standing under a corrugated roof. Its silhouette is still, head lowered, accepting night without bargaining for dawn. I envy that acceptance, yet also cherish the restless parts of me that keep wondering. The conductor strolls past, nodding, tapping a rhythmic code on the rail with his flashlight. He doesn't ask for my ticket. Perhaps he senses the whole carriage is already paid in hush. Somewhere behind us, a kettle whistles faintly in the service car, hinting at chamomile and steam. The thought of warm tea drifts through the aisles like a small, comforting rumor. I won't fetch a cup. The image alone is soothing, a promise I can sip in imagination. Outside, telephone poles march beside the track, their wires singing a tune we cannot quite hear. I think of words left unspoken, strung between people like those wires, conductors of silent messages. Maybe tonight a few of those messages surrender, falling gently as sparks into forgiving dark. My own eyelids grow heavier, each blink lingering longer as though rehearsing full closure. Breath lengthens, shoulders sink. The seat beneath me feels deeper, almost tide-like in its pull. The couple in the corner now sleep, heads touching, forming a single outline against window light. The man with the glasses folds his handkerchief precisely, then reclines, surrendering calculations to dreams. Even the toddler quiets, rabbit pressed close, their small chest rising in measured trust. The train slows, hardly noticeable, just a mellow easing of urgency, inviting collective exhale. We remain between stations, a floating corridor of soft breaths and muted heartbeats. Another mile drifts by, thought thins into gentle mist, settling over fields of half-remembered images. I allow the rhythm to finish its work, smoothing inner landscapes like rain polishing stone. One final view slips past, a cottage window lit by a single lamp, curtains half drawn, someone reading. That solitary lamp nods to us, acknowledging our passage, granting permission to close the chapter. I close my eyes fully now, trusting the rails to carry both body and thought downstream. Rain, engine, breath, three quiet instruments, blend into one slow lull, fading, soft, then softer still. The night is deeper now, a velvet lake outside the window, stirred only by narrow waves of rain. Tracks glimmer in the distance when lightning hints far behind the hills, but the flash never reaches us. Inside, the carriage holds a hush as steady as breath held in a hymn's final pause. I sit 3 rows from the end, where the aisle narrows and the ceiling curves almost like a sheltering arm. The seat fabric smells faintly of wool and lavender cleaning soap, something humble, something almost domestic. A small overhead light halos my journal, though the page remains blank. Tonight, words prefer to float. I rest my pen, listening instead to the rail joints knocking out a gentle, familiar code. Clack, pause, clack. Each sound more spacious than the last, a staircase that gradually widens into rest. The window has fogged in soft circles from earlier passengers. Within one ring, I watch droplets race. Each droplet starts bold, then slows, then merges with another, like strangers drifting into quiet friendship without effort. Beyond the fog, farmland spreads in dark layers. Hay bales silhouetted, tractor shadows idle, no lamps burning. An old silo rises, lone and patient, looking to me like a lighthouse with its beacon turned inward. I remember a summer afternoon spent inside a real lighthouse, narrow stairs echoing with my younger laughter. The guide had said the light used to spin every 12 seconds, marking time for sailors long gone. Some memories still circle me that way, brief illumined sweeps, steady, measured kind. Across the aisle, a student in a brown hoodie sketches something on a tablet, stylus gliding quietly. He lifts his gaze often, capturing the tilt of the carriage, the half-sleeping heads, the silver rain. I imagine his drawing shows us as silhouettes made of music notes, arranged along invisible staves. Maybe he will call the piece Nocturne in Steel, and someday I will glimpse it in a gallery. At the far door, a woman in bright yellow socks stands stretching, one hand on the cool metal frame. Her suitcase bears stickers from cities I have only dreamed of: Reykjavik, Porto, Kyoto, each one a tiny map. She hums under her breath, a tune I don't know, and for a moment the whole corridor seems to sway to it. The train dips into a shallow cutting where embankments rise, black earth slicked with sheen, ferns trembling. I lean back, feel the gradients slow our speed, an almost imperceptible easing like whispered forgiveness. Rain lightens to mist, each droplet now distinct, spaced, deliberate, small punctuation instead of sentences. In that softer tapping, an old memory knocks. My grandfather whittling wood on his porch during drizzle. Shavings curled at his feet like pale petals. He carved a whistle for me, said its note could call calm. I never tested that claim, but tonight the rail song feels like the whistle's promised echo returning at last. We glide past a station with only one bench, painted green but peeling, and an iron clock fixed at midnight. The clock has stopped, yet the hands look content, as though accepting a final pose of quiet dignity. I wonder if someone set it intentionally, a small rebellion against relentless motion. Motion, though, is gentle here, forward, yes, but unhurried, as if the engine itself has adopted lullaby tempo. I see my reflection again, eyes half closed, shoulders dropped, edges softened by sleep's patient eraser. Behind the glass, distant houses flicker, kitchen bulbs left on, perhaps for cats wandering home. One window reveals a figure washing dishes, sleeves rolled high, moving slowly, gladly alone. Even in passing, that domestic act warms me, proof that ordinary care persists while we travel unseen. The student yawns, saves his sketch, powers down the screen, darkness folding over bright lines. He tucks the tablet away, leans against the pane, ear pressed as though to listen for hidden chords. A gentle smell of peppermint drifts from someone's thermos. Steam ghosts upward, then disappears. Small comforts travel fast, from peppermint to lavender to rain, weaving a quilt of quiet scent. My own thoughts settle under that quilt, no longer restless, just gently turning like pages caught in breeze. We cross a viaduct, rails echo hollow, a low reverberation that dips and rises like a slow heartbeat. Below, a river curls silver, catching glints from the train's windows, borrowed constellations scattered on water. I count them without numbers, letting the rhythm itself tally. One shimmer, another, then a long hush. Soon the land flattens, sound steadies, breath follows, slower still. The conductor appears once more, not to check tickets but to dim aisle lights, motion kind and unspoken. His keys jingle softly, like wind chimes in distant rooms, then fade as he moves on. With reduced light, the world outside feels nearer, as though the carriage wall has thinned to sheer fabric. I sense fields pressing close, night animals pausing mid-step to watch us glide, curious yet unafraid. The woman in yellow socks returns to her seat, folds her jacket as a makeshift pillow, eyes closing instantly. Her suitcase stickers seem to glow faintly, promises of tomorrow shifting into dreams of elsewhere. I close my journal, pages still blank, decide blankness is tonight's true record. Nothing forced, nothing resolved. Sometimes the absence of words is itself a poem, shaped by breaths we do not transcribe. We slow for another tiny halt. Elmbridge Crossing, the sign says, letters silvered by dew and headlights. No platform lights here, only the moon, and even that appears half asleep behind gauzy clouds. Doors remain shut. We pause purely out of habit, honoring a schedule older than our worries. In that pause, silence swells, then exhales, carrying away threads of thought I no longer need. The engine sighs, gears engage, we move, but even movement now feels like deep stillness wearing shoes of motion. Rain stops completely, droplets cling quiet, reflecting faint stars that have finally pushed through thinning cloud. The world outside brightens a shade, not dawn yet, but something gently preparing. Inside, half the carriage sleeps, the other half drifts at the shoreline of sleep, toes in warm tide. Heartbeats blur with rail beats. Boundaries dissolve the way mist rises from fields at morning's first hint. No need to chase sleep. It is already here, sitting beside me like an old friend who speaks seldom. If dreams arrive, they will speak in the quiet grammar of wheels and rainfall remembered, gentle and slow. And when morning finally calls my name, perhaps at another distant station, I will carry this hush inside. A pocket full of calm mileposts, tiny fixed stars between heartbeats, guiding me gently onward. Rain strokes the windows in soft diagonal lines, a painter testing gentle brushes on glass. Beyond the blur, fields unfold like dark quilts, edges stitched by low stone walls and foxglove. The train hums beneath me, a subdued cello note, steady, resonant, patient with the night. I sit by myself this time, coat collar raised, fingertips tucked under to stay warm. Every few breaths I fog the window, then watch my reflection soften into pale abstraction. There is comfort in that blurring, as though identity itself loosens, ready for sleep's embrace. A distant crossing light flashes red, then fades behind us, a fleeting heartbeat in rural dark. I imagine the road it guards, empty, slick, maybe holding one quiet bicycle leaning against a gate. In the overhead rack rests a forgotten umbrella, fabric olive green, handle polished from long use. Its ribs are slightly bent, a silent memory of storms weathered and sidewalks hurried across. I wonder whose hand once gripped that curved wood, whose pocket held the small train ticket still inside. Perhaps tomorrow someone will reclaim it, relieved, smiling at the reunion with a simple tool of shelter. Across the aisle, a man with salt and pepper hair threads earbuds into place, but no music plays. He closes his eyes anyway, as if the promise of melody is enough to soothe. Light from the window dances across his eyelids, silver ripples reflecting each passing track joint. I picture him composing a silent symphony, notes shaped from the hush between droplets. A few rows ahead, two teenage sisters trade a paperback back and forth without speaking. One reads a page, flips the book, hands it over. The other reads the next, a rhythm. Their mother sleeps between them, head tilted, mouth relaxed, trust flowing like warm milk in dream. Something about that shared reading feels sacred, language ferried gently across the river of exhaustion. Outside, a barn roof flashes by, corrugated metal shimmering like fish scales under scattered platform lamps. Cows huddle near the doorway, steam rising from their flanks, content with rain's muted percussion. The sight reminds me of early mornings on my aunt's farm, boots sinking into wet straw. She used to say the world resets itself in the quiet hours before breakfast. I believed her. Tonight the reset feels near, suspended, waiting for us to drift into softer breathing. The carriage light flickers once, then steadies, the small jolt nudging memories loose in gentle cascade. I recall a childhood friend who loved trains but feared thunder. We once rode during a storm. Windows flashed white, wheels rattled, and she squeezed my hand, whispering that motion outran every rumble. Perhaps that is why I ride now, to outpace the noises memory still carries. A conductor approaches, footsteps deliberate, voice lowered to a velvet hush when greeting half-awake passengers. He taps his badge lightly as though to remind himself of who he is tonight. When he passes me, I nod. No words are necessary, our silence is a shared hallway. The rain shifts, becomes finer, almost invisible, yet I hear it tighten its rhythm on the roof. Droplets rattle like grains of rice poured slowly into a wooden bowl, counting towards fullness. We glide into a curve where birch trees lean close, their white trunks thin lanterns in gloom. Leaves flutter, silvered beneath the carriage lights, as if applauding our quiet persistence through darkness. I notice my shoulders drop a fraction, tension sliding away the way droplets slip down corrugated tin. In that release, regret surfaces briefly, unfinished letters, phone calls postponed, words left coiled behind teeth. But the train sway is forgiving. It smooths those sharp memories into round pebbles, edges gone. I let them roll to the floor of consciousness, where they will rattle harmlessly and finally rest. The sisters close the paperback together, place its spine up on their mother's lap, and settle. Their breaths synchronize, small sighs merging with real clacks, an orchestra of involuntary kindness. The salt and pepper man removes his silent earbuds, smiles faintly, folds hands over his chest. Perhaps he too has found music in the hush, preferring its unscored cadence to any recorded tune. Fog thickens outside, swallowing countryside, leaving only reflections of carriage lights turned faintly inward. We become a floating lantern, carrying constellations of sleeping faces across an unseen river. In that gentle darkness I sense community, though no names are exchanged, no stories confirmed. Shared movement is enough. It threads us together, stitch by stitch, like patchwork kept warm by friction. We slow for a minor stop, Ashford Hollow, platform length barely matching two carriages. A single dog waits beneath the canopy, tail wagging, water shaking from its fur with delight. The doors stay closed. The dog watches anyway, then trots off into puddles, mission unknown. When we roll forward again, I notice the forgotten umbrella sway gently in the rack. Its fabric whispers, urging me to rescue it, but I resist. Ownership is a tender thing. It belongs to anticipation, to reunion yet to come. Touching it would unravel that future happiness. Instead, I plan an imaginary note. Your umbrella traveled safely tonight, admired by passing thoughts. I hope the owner senses that message somehow, waking tomorrow with a sudden, quiet reassurance. Overhead, the speaker crackles softly. Next station in 15 minutes. Connection available, light breakfast soon served. Even the announcement sounds sleepy, consonants cushioned, vowels drawn long like stretching cats. I take a slow breath, let it out longer still, practicing the language of diminuendo. Body settles, spine aligning with seat back, eyelids half-masked, like blinds lowered but not yet latched. Outside, first hint of dawn brushes the horizon, a charcoal smudge lightening toward lilac. Rain eases into drizzle, then to single drops spaced far apart, punctuation closing the paragraph of night. In the dim carriage mirror, my face softens, outlines merging with dawn's tentative palette. No need for conclusions, only this gentle interim between shadow and day, motion and arrival. I tuck hands into sleeves, lean my head, invite the sound of rails to finish its lullaby. Thoughts drift outward, thinning like chimney smoke, disappearing into the large, forgiving sky. Umbrellas, cows, paperback pages, all dissolve into quiet symbols carried forward yet weightless. I surrender to that weightlessness, trusting that the train, the rain, and approaching light will hold me. And when the next station calls, whether I wake or not, I will have traveled the softest mile. Rain keeps a measured pulse on the roof tonight, softer than before, nearly conversational. Each droplet lands like a fingertip on a quiet drum, reminding me that even silence enjoys company. The train glides through open pasture, where grazing fields are now just dark plains stretching to meet low cloud. In my window's faint reflection, I see only outline, temples silvered by dim light, eyes half aware. I do not wave at that reflection. Instead, I nod, an old friend recognizing how little needs saying. Somewhere behind me, a corridor light clicks on, then off as the conductor makes his rounds. His steps are slow, soles whispering against linoleum, matching the rain's tempo beat for beat. Midway down that corridor hangs a brass-framed clock, its face small, numbers painted by hand. A decorative second hand circles without urgency, tracing time we no longer measure in hours but in hush. I imagine the clock's painter, bent over the dial years ago, trying to steady brush strokes despite train vibrations. Perhaps he listened to a storm like this one, letting thunder tame impatience, letting rain stretch each breath. Across the aisle, a young father lifts his sleeping daughter closer, her cheek resting on his shoulder. She wears red rain boots, one dangling at a tired angle, the other has slipped halfway off. He does not correct it. Perfection can wait for daylight. The drifting boot reminds me of my first pair, yellow, sunlit, brought home on a day too dry for puddles. I wore them indoors anyway, stamping across wooden floors, imagining oceans swirling beneath every step. Outside, distant signal lights blink once, twice, fading like campfire embers swallowed by dew-wet grass. We pass an unused siding where rusted freight cars sleep under tarps. Their outlines look like enormous creatures curled in hibernation, breathing fog into the night. I wonder what they once carried: coal, grain, letters, hopes. Cargo now dissolved into memory and iron scent. The carriage settles into deeper quiet. Pages stop turning, teacups cool, phone screens dim. I feel thought itself dim, muscles loosening as though my bones have absorbed the rail's steady lull. Near the window, condensation beads into perfect spheres, then elongates before slipping downward in slow races. One droplet pauses midway, catching a glimmer from the corridor clock, then merges with another and disappears. Joining, letting go, motion's simplest wisdom. The father sighs, long and gentle, his exhale blending with carriage hum. His daughter's small hand twitches, perhaps chasing something delightful through dream. I wish her dream is a meadow at noon, clouds shaped like sailboats, wind warm but not too loud. 2 seats forward, an elderly couple shares a single blanket, tartan blue and green. They lean shoulder to shoulder, reading the same crossword in pencil. She whispers a clue, he writes the letters, erasing occasionally with the edge of his thumb. Their puzzle book rests on the fold-down table, illuminated by a lamp trimmed low. That light pools softly, like moonlight trapped in a teacup. I think of companionship. Sometimes it is nothing more dramatic than finishing words someone else half spells. The train tilts into a curve. Wheels sing a higher note, brief but bright. Rain answers by softening further, as though impressed by our graceful turn. Mist rises from the tracks, wraps itself around distant hedges, makes them appear and vanish in slow pulses. My heartbeat matches that pulse. Appear, vanish, appear. Time once frightened me with its linear insistence. Tonight it feels more like tide, returning stories without agenda. A memory drifts in, my mother circling birthdays on a kitchen calendar, tiny stars beside each name. Even the family cat earned a star, celebrated with cream poured into a saucer the color of dawn. That calendar page rattled lightly whenever a train passed our house, loosening scotch tape at the corners. Trains have always been background music for me. Perhaps that is why I sleep best when moving. The corridor clock clicks faintly as minute hands align to a new hour, though I cannot tell which one. Its chime is muted, as if the clock itself respects our collective near sleep. I picture gears within turning at tranquil speeds, brass teeth greeting each other in unhurried kisses. Mechanisms invisible, yet entirely confident that arrival will come when it comes. We slow near a rural station, Oakford Reach, platform lamps tilted by years of wind. No passengers wait, yet we pause. Schedules are promises kept even when no one is watching. The doors hiss open. Night air drifts in, scented with wet grass and distant wood smoke. For a moment, I almost leave my seat, tempted to step onto that empty platform and inhale sky. But gravity of comfort keeps me, and the doors whisper shut. Departure feels softer than arrival. We glide forward, carrying a pocket of Oakford's cool air with us. It mingles with carriage warmth, creating small eddies of scent: peat, lavender, steel. The crossword couple closes their book, cap their pencil, and clasp hands on the table's edge. They exchange no words. The closing of pages is dialogue enough. The father finally tugs the loose boot back onto his daughter's heel, secure but gentle, so as not to wake her. I envy that act of quiet care, adjusting the world by millimeters for someone else's peace. My eyelids lower, reopen, then hover. Thoughts drift to single-frame scenes. A lighthouse at dusk, a letter unsent, the corridor clock's patient face. Outside, dawn hides just beyond the horizon, testing pale colors behind curtains of cloud. I sense it the way you sense someone entering a room you cannot see. Air tilts subtly, something bright warms the dark. The rain eases to mere dew, then to nothing. Droplets linger only on memory's tongue. Wheels hush too, their songs slowed by leveled track and approaching morning. Sleep edges closer, polite, waiting for my nod. I give it. Head tilts against cushion, shoulders yield, fingers unclench. Last thing I see is that brass clock, minute hand pointing toward a future I no longer need to measure. Its face blurs, softer, softer, until markings blend into a single calm circle. Everything circles, rain, wheels, memories, breaths. And in that gentle loop, the train carries us, steady and forgiving, into the pale cradle of next light. Rain drifts in gentle curtains over the window, silver threads dissolving before they reach the sill. The glass hums with quiet vibration, each droplet shivering, then sliding away like a soft-spoken farewell. Outside, pastureland lies quilted in darkness, stitched by hedgerows and pale rivulets of moonlit runoff. Our carriage moves through it all, a muted lantern gliding on rails polished by countless midnights. I rest my head against the seat, feeling the pulse of metal beneath fabric, steady as slow breath. Across the aisle a small lamp glows, haloing a paperback held by a man with gentle hands. He turns pages without haste, pausing between lines as though tasting each quiet sentence before moving on. I wonder what story he carries tonight. Perhaps a tale of sailors charting constellations, perhaps a memoir of gardens. Whatever his pages hold, they soften his features, replacing day's sharpness with wool-lined reverie. A low chime sounds overhead, announcing the next minor stop, though the name blurs in the fog. We will pause, doors will part, and the world may remain empty save for drifting rain. The anticipation itself feels ceremonial, as if honoring the idea of arrival even without witnesses. A young woman near the door cradles a violin case, fingertips tracing invisible scales along its worn edge. She hums beneath her breath, a melody barely louder than the wheel's hush, yet perfectly in tune with the night. Perhaps she has just left a concert hall glowing with golden light and applause that still lingers in her pulse. Or perhaps she is traveling to an early rehearsal, carrying tomorrow's music folded inside cedar and velvet. Either way, the case seems to breathe with quiet promise, bridging what was and what might be. Rain quickens, a playful staccato on the roof, then eases again, settling into slow-motion drizzle. The rhythm reminds me of my grandmother's knitting needles, clicking with patient certainty beside a winter fire. She called every dropped stitch a hidden wish, trusting the flaw to carry a small prayer forward. I find myself wondering how many hidden wishes ride with us tonight, tucked into luggage and coat pockets. Perhaps the train itself is knitted from them, iron rails looping like rows of yarn beneath our weight. Outside, a lone wind turbine stands motionless, its blades resting like giant petals closed for the night. The red safety light on its hub blinks steadily, a heartbeat for distant wanderers who might look up. In its reassurance I sense a lesson. Even stillness can signal life, even pause can glow. We pass a pond that mirrors our windows, showing a ripple of dim interior lights on black water. For a breath I see myself twice. Once inside, once floating outside, both versions drifting toward the same horizon. Reflection and self seem to trade secrets, neither certain who owns the story, both content to share it. The doors hiss open at the scheduled halt. No footfalls answer, yet rain leans in as welcome guest. Fresh air threads through the carriage, cool and clean, scented with wet earth and faint heather. I breathe it in slowly, allowing lungs to taste the unhurried honesty of countryside nights. Then the doors slide shut, gentle like turning pages back to a bookmarked dream. The wheels grip the track again and motion resumes, though half a heartbeat slower than before. Pacing softens, words in my head space themselves farther apart, giving silence room to bloom. 2 seats behind, a student rearranges flashcards on a tray table, but his eyelids drift lower each shuffle. Eventually the cards lie forgotten, their printed formulas nesting like tame birds beneath folded hands. Knowledge can wait until dawn. Tonight even equations deserve a cradle of rest. I close my own eyes for a moment and listen. Rain, rails, an occasional sigh weaving a gentle chord. Sound thickens into warmth, blankets mind, tucks stray thoughts under its edge. A flicker of memory surfaces, a seaside boardwalk at dusk, meandering gulls, salt steady on the wind. I taste that salt now, surprising, vivid, as if the train had poured a wave across my tongue. Memories travel faster than miles, arriving fully formed without timetable or ticket stub. I let the boardwalk fade, leaving behind only the sense of expansive shoreline inside my chest. When my eyes open, countryside has changed. We glide beside orchard rows, branches bowed beneath rain-bright fruit. Leaves shimmer under carriage lights, each droplet a temporary jewel gifted to the patient trees. I think of promises I meant to keep, visit an old friend, learn the names of constellations beyond Orion. The list feels lighter now, not an admonition but a collection of lanterns I can raise whenever ready. Another soft chime, 30 minutes until the junction where some of us will part ways. Time, once rigid, loosens further, stretching like dusk across a horizon too wide for clocks. The man with the paperback closes his book, marks his place with a ticket stub, then simply holds it. He gazes toward the window as if satisfied the story can continue alone for a while. His stillness invites my own, and I feel words drift away, replaced by the slow tide of breath. Rain subsides to the faintest whisper, a secret told only to roof rivets and resting birds. Somewhere the violinist finally yields to sleep, chin on her case, melody postponed yet safe. Her hum lingers like incense, fragrant long after the candle flame has settled into smoke. I notice the train's sway becoming deeper, each lateral nod longer, soothing like a cradle eased by caring hands. Stars appear in scattered gaps between clouds, their pale shimmer magnified by glass streaked with drying rain. I find one and follow it until eyes blur, until its light blends with passing signal lamps. Focus dissolves. No single point holds me now, only the wide, tender dark. Breath slows again, shoulders sink. The seat seems to grow softer, aware of its role in tonight's lullaby. Thoughts become single images. A blinking turbine light, orchard leaves dripping silver, a knit stitch left loose. Images fade to color, color to tone, tone to hush. The final realization before surrender. Motion itself is kindness, carrying me gently while demanding nothing in return. I let that kindness have its way, sliding consciousness into the quiet carriage of dream. Somewhere ahead, morning prepares a pale canvas. Somewhere behind, night folds its finished pages. Here, between the two, I drift, content, unhurried, held by rain-washed rails and the soft promise of onward. Rain threads the window again, delicate but sure, like someone knocking politely. Droplets glide in angled rows, then merge, forming small rivers that vanish at the frame. The train carries their echoes along steel ribs, a hushed percussion beneath my seat. I sit 2 carriages from the engine, where the air smells faintly of cedar and iron. My coat rests beside me, collar propped, collecting stray reflections from corridor lamps. Outside, fields widen into marshland, reeds swaying in slow choreography beneath slate sky. Their tips catch brief sparks of station light, tiny lanterns bobbing on invisible water. We pass a wooden footbridge, empty, its railings gleaming with fresh rain like polished bone. For one breath I imagine a traveler paused there, waving at this very moment, unseen but hopeful. The notion warms me, a small ember flickering between ribs and rain. Across the aisle, a woman in a moss-green cardigan sketches with charcoal on a folded newspaper. Her fingers smudge gentle shadows, turning printed headlines into valleys and cloud banks. Occasionally she lifts her gaze, studying the darkness as if it posed for her. I wonder what she sees that I cannot, what landscapes bloom behind closing eyes. A soft overhead chime announces a request stop ahead. No station name, just coordinates whispered by code. We will slow, doors may open. Silence itself might board or disembark. The anticipation settles over the carriage, plush and unspoken, like fresh snowfall. 2 seats forward, a businessman folds his laptop, the click surprisingly quiet, almost apologetic. He rubs his temples, lingering in the blue afterglow of screen light that once commanded urgency. Now that glow fades, replaced by lamp warmth and the rhythmic lull of engineered motion. He exhales, long and even, surrendering deadlines to the gentle jurisdiction of midnight. Rain intensifies, drumming lightly on metal seams, but never loud enough to disturb. Its cadence reminds me of my childhood attic, tin roof singing lullabies during monsoon nights. I slept then on a straw mat, counting seconds between flashes of faraway lightning. Those seconds stretched, teaching patience, teaching the soft mathematics of waiting. Tonight, patience sits beside me again, older, unhurried, content to watch landscapes blur. The sketching woman pauses to blow stray charcoal from the page. It drifts like gray confetti. When the dust settles, her drawing reveals a moonlit viaduct, arches glowing, water mirrored beneath. She smiles at the image, not at herself, as though greeting an old friend found by chance. I find myself smiling too, quietly, sharing her moment without claiming it. Outside, cattails bow under rain weight, then spring back, resilient, rhythmic, assured of dawn's reprise. Their silhouettes fade behind us, replaced by open fen dotted with solitary aspens. A distant farmhouse lamp flickers once, then steadies, a beacon neither summoning nor warning. Its glow drifts across flooded grass, scattering on puddles like coins on shallow fountains. In that reflection I glimpse nostalgia, but it arrives gently, without ache, like linen dried in sun. The train slows, brakes sigh, wheels sing a softer note. We halt beside a platform barely wider than the carriage door. No one stands there, yet the doors part anyway, respecting timetabled promises. Night air slips in, crisp, smelling of peat smoke and damp stone. A single moth flutters through the opening, circles the ceiling lamp, then settles on the exit sign. Tiny wings rest, pulsing, perhaps grateful for borrowed warmth. Moments later, doors close. The moth remains, hitchhiker of happenstance, now our silent passenger. We ease forward, acceleration gentle enough to feel like a lull rather than a push. The businessman leans back, eyes closed, laptop forgotten, mouth curved into half-formed contentment. His briefcase tilts, spilling a corner of a child's crayon drawing, stick figures beneath a sun too large. I imagine the artist waiting at journey's end, arms ready, unaware of time zones and fatigue. That drawing glows brighter than any spreadsheet, illuminating the man's slackened features. Rain slackens too, shifting from percussion to whisper, like a curtain lowered mid-performance. Windows clear, moonlight slips through, pale and contemplative, painting silver arcs across seat backs. I trace one arc with my finger, following its curve until it fades near the luggage rack. There, an old leather suitcase bears a faded hotel tag, Trieste, Ponte Rosso. Salt stains outline its seams, proof of seas crossed, languages tried, promises sealed with stamps. I picture the suitcase's owner, a quiet professor perhaps, napping somewhere in the next carriage. Books inside may rattle softly with each rail joint, exchanging secrets in dog-eared margins. We enter a tunnel, brief and narrow. Walls rush past like film reels, sound deepening. In that hush within hush, heartbeats feel audible, shared drum beneath layered quiet. Tunnel breath ends. We emerge into open meadow, dew catching the first hint of eastward blush. Dawn assembles gingerly, gathering lavender threads, weaving them at horizon's hem. Carriage lights dim in respect, letting natural gray seep over upholstery and coats. The sketcher closes her newspaper canvas, tucking it into a satchel already full of folded twilights. She rests her head, charcoal-smudged fingers relaxed upon zipper teeth that gleam like tiny constellations. My own eyes grow heavy, sentences spacing wider, syllables drifting apart like boats at ebb tide. Thoughts settle on soft pylons, moth wings, crayon suns, dewlit meadows, silent clocks. Breath lengthens, finds harmony with swaying carriage and distant echo of gulls I only imagine. I surrender naming, let impressions flow unlabeled, just warmth, just rhythm, just onward. Rain has stopped entirely now, droplets cling but no new arrivals cue. The window wears them like small jewels, refracting newborn light into muted rainbows. I lean back further, securing a pillow of folded scarf beneath my neck. Fabrics intertwine, the train's upholstery, my wool, pockets of dawn, forming a nest wrought from journey. Across the aisle, the moth rises again, circles once more, then settles on my window, wings open to gray. We watch each other without intent, both passengers in fragile husks moving toward morning. The engine's drone softens 1 degree, wheels hush, landscape drifts slower as though exhaling. In that extended breath I find rest, neither here nor there, but precisely enough. Eyes close fully, sound fades to wash, color fades to hush, carriage becomes cradle. And somewhere ahead, a signal flashes green, quiet promise that forward continues, even while I sleep. Rain glimmers under station lamps, a curtain of tiny beads stitched with light. The train rests for a breath, engine idling in low, velvety tones, like a cat purring at the foot of a bed. I sit near the rear carriage tonight, where windows meet the dark at a gentler angle. Glass holds a faint reflection of my face, eyes softened, mouth curved in half-formed ease. Outside, a signal box stands solitary, its windows glowing amber behind lace curtains of drizzle. Someone inside must be sipping tea, monitoring lines that stretch unseen across wet meadows. I picture them humming a tune only the rails can recognize, a lullaby for passing wheels. The doors close with a muted sigh, and we slip forward, gathering momentum no faster than a falling leaf. Trackside puddles ripple, catching our lights, then settling again as though nothing disturbed their mirrored sky. Rows of freight wagons appear in the sidings, stenciled numbers blurred by rust and rain. Their shadows overlap, forming darker shapes that resemble sleeping whales along a moonless shore. Each wagon carries its own stillness, freight now gone, purpose paused until dawn's bookkeeping resumes. In that hush, I sense the dignity of rest, how even iron requires an exhale. A young man 2 seats ahead cradles a thermos, steam spiraling up into dim air. He tilts the cup toward the window, offering warmth to his own reflection before taking a sip. The gesture feels ceremonial, as though sharing tea with the night itself. I catch the faint aroma, chamomile, maybe honey, soft enough to coax shoulders lower. Across the aisle, a silver-haired woman threads yarn through slender needles, crafting slow arcs of color. Her fingers move without looking, muscle memory guiding each loop into quiet order. Every so often she pauses, glances at the pattern, nods, resumes, patience stitched into every breath. I imagine the blanket she weaves will cover a newborn yet to wake into its first sunrise. Rain shifts, tempo easing, droplets now sparse and deliberate, like punctuation marking the night's long sentence. The rails answer with subtler music, the clack of joints softening into velvet taps. We pass a tiny halt, Brindle Heath, too small for scheduled stops at this hour. A single milk churn waits beneath the shelter, silver body gleaming in lantern glow. Its presence feels like a note left on a windowsill, harmless, hopeful, expecting retrieval. Beyond the halt, farmland slopes gently downward, revealing distant orchards veiled in mist. Apple trees stand arranged like dark constellations, branches pearled with rain that glitters under moon-breaking cloud. Their symmetry comforts me, quiet assurance that patterns endure whether or not we watch. Inside, carriage lights dim another degree, inviting hush to settle deeper. My pulse aligns with the sway, each heartbeat rolling into the next like waves organizing themselves upon a shore. A conductor pads along the aisle, sneakers instead of polished shoes, respecting sleepers' dreams. He checks no tickets, only scans for needs, then disappears, a guardian of unspoken wants. His retreat leaves behind the faint scent of citrus soap, bright yet unobtrusive. Memory stirs. My father's workshop, orange peel drying on a radiator while rain rattled the roof. I recall tracing grain patterns in pine offcuts, imagining secret maps to distant islands. Those imagined voyages return now, folded into the real motion carrying me through countryside night. The knitting woman pauses, tucks needles into yarn and closes her eyes, trusting momentum to hold the weave together. The young man caps his thermos, embraces sleep chin to chest, hands cupped like closed petals. Silence expands, becomes a blanket reaching every seat, every sleeper, every drifting thought. Outside, a level crossing flashes red, then fades behind us, leaving rails to glimmer in retreating light. I marvel at how signals guard paths few travelers ever see, steadfast in loyal invisibility. Clouds thin, revealing fragments of sky brushed with faint indigo, prelude to dawn still an hour away. Stars peek through, their pale fires doubled in rain-specked glass, scattering pinpoints across my lap. One star seems to ride alongside, maintaining distance, companion on an unseen parallel track. I follow it until eyelids shiver with weight, then let vision blur into soft glow. Thoughts shorten, syllables slide, sentences unwind like threads slipping from a reel. Yet a final image arises, tender and clear. A lantern set upon an old wooden fence, flame steady despite drizzle. Perhaps a farmer left it burning for a family member due home on a later train. Or perhaps it simply waits as symbolic gesture, cheering any passerby who chances this route at night. That lantern flickers within me now, gentle assurance that someone somewhere tends light without asking why. The train slows, for reasons unknown to us, engine hum dropping into near silence. We glide through open cutting where wildflowers sway, unseen but sensed, their scent faint and earthly. I realize we are coasting, no urgency, trusting gradient to see us through this mild descent. The absence of thrust feels soothing, an invitation to yield control, to let gravity carry part of the load. My breath mirrors it. Inhale, then longer exhale, no push, only release. In that calm space, regrets drift in like feathers and just as quietly drift out again. The wheels pick up gentle rhythm once more. The engineer nudges throttle, respectful. We round a bend revealing a lake, dark mirror rimmed in rushes. Our lights paint brief strokes across its surface, and for the span of 3 heartbeats, the train appears to float. Then land resumes, rails firm, scenery folds back into hedgerow and field. Inside, even sleepers seem to smile, subtle curves at lips, as though souls recognize the lake's stillness. I take the hint, letting shoulders melt further, spine sinking into plush upholstery. Eyelids descend to half light, then to dim, then to dream's threshold. Last sounds mingled, rain now only a distant tick, metal now only distant hum. Images merge, knitting needles, milk churn, sidings, lantern, until they blur into one soft glow. I let that glow cradle me, trusting it to bridge the gap between conscious mile and sleeping mile. Forward persists, so does quiet, so does the faint scent of chamomile drifting down the aisle. And somewhere not far off, another signal flicks green, clearing the way for dreams to travel safely through the night. Rain rests lightly on the carriage skin, like fingertips counting heartbeats in the dark. The window carries twin reflections, lamp glow within, moon-blurred pasture without. I sit in the rear coach, where silence pools deepest and the engine's voice sounds distant, almost imagined. Each wheel joint strikes a soft spark of sound, quick, then swallowed by the steady undertone of motion. Outside, birch trunks rise pale and slender, punctuation marks guiding the sentence of track toward an unseen horizon. A lone fox steps into headlamp spill, pauses, ears pricked, then chooses shadow over spectacle. The moment feels like a courtesy, nature nodding to machine before reclaiming night. Across the aisle, a young woman folds origami cranes from ticket stubs, crease by patient crease. A small flock perches on her tray table, wings lifted as though catching drafts from dreams. I picture her releasing them upon arrival, letting paper flight carry leftover thoughts beyond goodbye. 2 rows forward, an elderly man polishes a silver pocket watch, thumb tracing circles worn smooth by years. When he snaps the case shut, the click is precise, a tiny metronome reminding time to behave. Beside him, an empty seat holds a single daffodil wrapped in damp tissue, stem bowed yet unbroken. I imagine he is traveling toward a grave tended every spring, promise kept in yellow bloom. Rain thickens, soft percussion on the roof, neither urgent nor bored, simply present. Its rhythm blends with the rails until difference dissolves. Water and iron singing one unhurried hymn. The carriage lights dim another shade, colors fading to muted amber, perfect for cultivating hush. I exhale through parted lips, watching breath cloud the glass, a temporary landscape of fog-soft hills. Behind that veil, farmland turns to marshland, reed heads nodding beneath wind invisible yet certain. Their motion calms me. Even in darkness they follow ancient choreography, steps older than regret. A station sign flickers by, Honeywick Cross, white letters smudged by years of drizzle. We do not stop. Still, the name settles briefly in my chest, sweet and weightless as its syllables. Memory answers with another name, a childhood friend I have not phoned in seasons too numerous. Guilt rises, polite but insistent. The rain's cadence invites me to offer it tea, then usher it out. The fox reappears farther along, now merely silhouette against distant barn lights. Its tail sweeps low, painting damp grass with unseen stories, then vanishes once more. I let the image linger, a small lighthouse keeping vigil at the edge of thought. The origami girl finishes her last crane, nudges it gently so wings align with the others. She smiles, satisfied, then folds her palms, allowing stillness to gather like dew between fingers. The pocket watch man dozes, watch clasped, daffodil cradled in the crook of his elbow. Petals tremble with each rail joint, a slow heartbeat shared between flower and steel. We enter a cutting where rock walls rise on either side, rain turning to cascades down mossy faces. Sound deepens, echoing as though the train has slipped inside a throat clearing itself of centuries. I feel sheltered, cocooned. World outside narrows to simplicity. Stone, water, motion. When the cutting opens, fields spread wide again, horizon sighing beneath thinning clouds. Far off, farmhouse windows gleam, amber squares floating like lanterns above dark earth. I consider the lives inside. Maybe someone needs bread for sunrise, maybe a child stirs from dream. Their warmth reaches me through glass and distance, a quiet assurance that mornings persist. Rain eases to mist. Droplets space themselves, slower, larger, deliberate, as if pacing breath for the sleepers within. My own breath follows, in and out tides growing longer, coastline of consciousness receding grain by grain. I recall a letter unsent, words scratched then abandoned, apology folded but never stamped. Tonight I forgive the silence. Perhaps the message traveled invisibly, carried by trains like this one. Sometimes intent is enough, the universe reading drafts we never mail. Ahead, a level crossing bell rings once, a solitary note bowing out into drizzle. We slow, brakes sighing, floorboards humming a deeper tone. The rhythm invites thoughts to settle, drowse. No vehicles wait at the gates, only puddles reflecting our passing lights in widening circles. Inside, the origami cranes lean toward the window, paper wings shimmering under stray street lamp glow. I imagine them murmuring among themselves, rehearsing liftoff strategies for dawn. A conductor strolls through, footsteps muffled by thick carpet, flashlight angled downward in deference to sleep. He nods to me, I return the gesture, no words needed in this temple of whisper. His badge catches a glint, star bright for half a second, then dark again. We resume speed, though speed now feels generous. Motion is gentle, like a lull rocking a cradle. Clouds part just enough to reveal one shy planet, bright pin to velvet sky. I track it until eyelids droop, vision swimming, planet turning to soft unfocused glow. Thought slows, sentences shorten, commas stretch into comfortable silence. Breath, in 4 counts, out, 5, body learning the mathematics of rest. Another station coasts by, platform empty save for stacked milk crates shining wet. We do not pause, our momentum carries us, yet even passing grants the quiet platform purpose. Purpose drifts to question, question to acceptance, acceptance to emptiness shaped like peace. The cranes blur, daffodil blurs, watch chain blurs, everything irons flat under steam of approaching sleep. I surrender weight to cushions, spine aligning with slow sway of carriage. Rain has become memory, sound now more imagined than heard, yet comfort remains tangible like wool on skin. Outside, east edge sky hints pewter rather than ink, dawn rehearsing colors behind closed curtains. I whisper good night to night itself, thanking it for the soft architecture of shadows and reflection. Then I let words dissolve, replaced by rhythm, rail hum, heart throb, breath tide. Carriage rocks once, gently, lids close completely, thought extinguishes like a lantern blown by kind wind. In that darkness, motion continues, carrying cranes, daffodil, fox, unsent letters, all bound gently toward beginnings only morning can name.